Let's talk about Canada, our famously polite neighbor, the land of endless forests, hockey, and a reputation for saying sorry even when it's not their fault. It's the home of universal healthcare, maple syrup, and of course Tim Hortons, where every small town has a coffee shop that feels like a community living room. For decades, the US and Canada enjoyed a cozy friendship, sharing the world's longest undefended border, and trading everything from cars to culture, music, and even comedians. But lately, things have gotten frosty. Literally and figuratively. The chill started when the Trump administration slapped tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum, catching many off guard. Canadians saw this as a direct attack from their closest ally, a move that felt both unexpected and deeply personal. Canada didn't just apologize and move on, they hit back with tariffs of their own, targeting American goods from ketchup to whiskey. Suddenly, a friendly partnership turned into a tense standoff, with both sides digging in their heels. This wasn't just a political spat, it hit regular people, changing what Canadians buy, where they travel, and even how they see their southern neighbors. What began as a policy fight quickly became a grassroots movement, fueled by national pride, a sense of betrayal, and a determination to stand up for Canada. Canadians started supporting their own economy more than ever, sending a clear message: they wouldn't be pushed around, no matter how big the neighbor. The effects rippled across American factories, farms, and tourist towns as cross-border business slowed and uncertainty grew. The story is a stark reminder: even the strongest alliances can crack when economic interests and national identity collide, leaving scars that last. This trade dispute has become a battle of wills, reshaping daily life, business, and even friendships on both sides of the border. It's a fascinating and slightly alarming look at how quickly international friendships can sour, and how even the friendliest nations can find themselves at odds when pride and pocketbooks are on the line. So, how did President Trump react to Canada's pushback? Not with diplomacy. He called Canadians mean and nasty for their boycott, an odd label for a nation known for politeness. The president seemed shocked that Canadians wouldn't just accept higher prices and job losses. Even his ambassador admitted the boycott was real and hurting US interests. The White House was clearly feeling the sting, but calling Canadians names only fueled their resolve. The insult became a rallying cry. "Oh, you think we're nasty? Watch this." The dispute shifted from economics to identity and respect. Canadians saw themselves as David standing up to Goliath. The president's words, meant to intimidate, only empowered the movement. The trade fight became a matter of national principle. Public opinion in Canada hardened and the boycott gained momentum. Sometimes a little name-calling can spark a revolution. The Canadian response started in the most Canadian place imaginable: the grocery store, a hub of daily life where neighbors meet and communities connect. It was here, among the aisles and shelves, that a quiet revolution began to take shape. Shoppers began scrutinizing every label. Was this ketchup made in Canada or the US? People who had never paid attention to origins before now made it a point to check, determined to support their own. Grocery owners quickly noticed a shift. Customers were deliberately avoiding American brands, sometimes even leaving shelves bare, and instead demanding Canadian alternatives with a new sense of urgency. This wasn't a top-down campaign orchestrated by politicians or corporations. It was a spontaneous, grassroots, nationwide movement that swept across cities and small towns alike. The boycott quickly spread beyond groceries. Soon, Canadian wine and whiskey were flying off shelves while American bottles gathered dust. Even travel plans changed, with brochures for US destinations left untouched. Provincial governments joined the movement, making headlines as they pulled American products from store shelves and held press conferences to show their support for Canadian goods. Canadians were united as never before, making a powerful statement with their wallets. Families, friends, and even strangers encouraged each other to buy local and stand together. One person's choice might seem small, but when multiplied by millions, those choices became an economic force that couldn't be ignored, sending a clear message across the border. This was no passing fad or fleeting trend, it was a deeply felt response to a sense of betrayal, and it resonated in every household. Canadians voted with their dollars, sending a warning: hurt our economy, and we'll hurt yours. Every purchase became a small act of protest. The grocery aisle, usually a place of routine, became a quiet but powerful battleground where choices spoke louder than words. Ordinary citizens weren't just spectators, they were on the front lines, making decisions that would ripple through the economy and history. In the end, their collective choices had a massive impact on the conflict's outcome, proving that everyday people can shape the course of events in powerful ways. The boycott evolved into the Buy Canada movement. It wasn't just about avoiding US goods, it was about celebrating Canadian ones. Polls showed 71% of Canadians planned to buy fewer American products. This was mainstream, not just a fringe protest. The stakes were huge. Canada is a $28 billion market for US food and alcohol. If Canadians stopped buying, American producers would feel real pain. Political leaders encouraged the movement, urging people to support local businesses and vacation at home. When leaders amplify a grassroots movement, it becomes a national strategy. The Buy Canada crusade became a defining feature of this era. Canadians used their purchasing power as a tool of foreign policy. They weren't passive victims, they were active agents defending their economy. The movement showed resilience and unity in the face of pressure. One Canadian-made product at a time, they stood together. The boycott didn't just hit grocery stores, it slammed US tourism. For months, fewer Canadians crossed the border to visit. American border towns felt the pinch: empty hotels, quiet restaurants, unsold souvenirs. The numbers were staggering. US tourism losses could reach $12.5 billion in a year. A political spat in Washington meant real pain for small businesses in Vermont and New York. US officials scrambled to lure Canadians back, but the tense atmosphere made it tough. Canadians chose the Rockies over the Grand Canyon, supporting their own economy. Tourism became another front in the trade war. For many, visiting the US felt like funding the opposition. Canadians explored their own country, making a patriotic statement. Empty motels and theme parks were silent proof every dollar spent or not spent was political. The economic impact was impossible to ignore. Canada wasn't alone. Anti-US sentiment was spreading globally, reaching far beyond North America's borders. What started as a ripple was quickly turning into a wave, as people around the world began to question their relationship with American products and policies. In Europe, a striking 44% of consumers reported they were actively avoiding American products. This wasn't just a minor trend, it was a significant shift in consumer behavior, with shoppers pausing before picking up anything marked "Made in USA." The backlash wasn't only about tariffs or trade wars, it was a direct response to the America First approach, which many saw as dismissive of global cooperation and partnership. As a result, the damage to brand USA was becoming a worldwide problem, with negative headlines and declining interest in American goods echoing across continents. Major US companies like Tesla began to feel the impact firsthand. In key European markets, sales weakened as customers turned to alternatives, wary of supporting American brands amid rising tensions. What started as a Canadian boycott quickly became a global trend, with news of protests and boycotts spreading from city to city and country to country. Aggressive trade policies and political posturing triggered a swift, widespread backlash, fueling frustration and resentment among international consumers. In today's connected world, political decisions in one country can instantly shape shopping habits everywhere. Social media and global news make it easy for consumers to react and organize. Consumers sent a clear message: they had choices and they were willing to take their money elsewhere, supporting brands that aligned with their values. The reputation of a country's products is closely tied to its government's actions, and shoppers were paying close attention to where their purchases came from. When shoppers in Canada, Germany, and France turn away from American goods, it signals deep dissatisfaction and a potential long-term shift in loyalty. US companies now risk losing market share and brand value for years to come, as the effects of this backlash ripple through the global economy. The world was watching, and voting with its wallet, making it clear that in a global marketplace, reputation matters more than ever. The future of US-Canada trade looks rocky. President Trump threatened even more tariffs, making business planning nearly impossible. Experts warned this aggressive stance wasn't a phase, it was policy. Tariffs on steel and aluminum were already hurting both sides. More would only escalate the pain. Canada's resolve hardened, determined to protect its jobs and industries. The constant tension created instability, with businesses and workers caught in the crossfire. Even if tariffs disappeared tomorrow, the scars would remain. Trust is hard to rebuild once broken. Many Canadians may stick with local products for good. Restoring the partnership will take more than a new trade deal. It'll require real diplomatic effort. For now, Canada is focused on resilience and self-reliance. The trade war has sparked a new sense of economic nationalism and independence. Under pressure from a superpower, Canada didn't fold, it united. From government offices to supermarket aisles, Canadians stood together. Leaders like BC's Premier echoed a sentiment already felt nationwide. Buy Canadian, vacation at home. This wasn't a top-down order, but a collective will to defend the economy and national sovereignty. The boycott and travel shift weren't petty revenge, they were strategic moves. The message: Canada wouldn't be bullied. Canadians accepted short-term pain for long-term principles. The US expected Canada to fold. Instead, they met firm, polite resistance. The unity of Canadians became the defining feature of their response. In the end, resilience, not size, mattered most. Canada proved it was more than a collection of provinces. It was a nation with purpose. Unity and determination became their greatest weapons. The US-Canada trade war was more than an economic spat. It was a test of friendship. Tariffs sparked a battle of national pride and consumer power. Trump's nasty comment only galvanized Canadians, turning shoppers into economic warriors. The Buy Canada movement showed the power of collective action. Millions of small choices created a big impact, catching the world's attention. The conflict forced Canada to rethink its economic ties and fostered new unity. The shift in habits may last, changing trade patterns for years. This is a story of Canada's quiet, determined response. Leaders and citizens stood together, showing polite but powerful patriotism. They proved national pride and economic sovereignty are worth defending. The Great White North, it turns out, has a backbone of steel, Canadian steel.